the depths of the Tibetan Plateau, known as the roof of the world, glacial meltwater converges into a force of mythological creation. It bears a name full of poetry and wildness, the Yarlung Tsangpo River. This great river is the mother river of Tibet, cleaving through the towering Himalayas from west to east like the artery of a giant dragon. It flows for nearly 3,000 kilometers, nourishing vast lands before surging into India under the name Brahmaputra River. It then transforms into the Jamuna River, converging with the Ganges in Bangladesh before emptying into the vast Bay of Bengal. It is not just a river, it is a lifeline that sustains the livelihoods of hundreds of millions of people across 3 major Asian nations, a flowing bond that traverses geopolitics, culture, and ecology. However, right at the most magnificent and perilous Great Bend of this sacred river, an unprecedented human engineering project is quietly rising. China, a nation renowned for its mega infrastructure, has officially launched a super project with an investment of over 1.2 trillion RMB, approximately 170 billion USD, the Medog hydropower station. Its planned installed capacity is a staggering 60 million kilowatts, 60 GW, with an estimated annual power generation of 300 billion kilowatt-hours. Let's use data to grasp the weight of this concept. Its installed capacity will be nearly 3 times that of the current world's largest hydropower station, the Three Gorges project, 22.5 million kW, and its annual power generation will also be triple that of the Three Gorges, around 100 billion kWh. This immense clean energy source is enough to light up 300 million homes and power a medium-sized nation for an entire year. This is not just a dam. It is an energy titan standing atop the world, another challenge by human engineering technology to the limits of nature. Once the news broke, the world was shaken, while the downstream neighbor, India, was instantly plunged into deep anxiety. In New Delhi's political circles, media, and public sphere, a complex symphony of voices, anger, worry, helplessness, and vigilance, erupted. They see it as a sword of Damocles for water resources hanging over their heads, believing China has seized control of the South Asian subcontinent's faucet, capable of creating droughts or floods at will. Some Western media outlets quickly followed suit, portraying the dam as a physical manifestation of Beijing's geopolitical ambitions and a fatal blow to the fragile plateau ecosystem. Is this behemoth built above the clouds a green monument for China's dual carbon goals? Or is it a strategic geopolitical piece placed on a sensitive border? How will it reshape Tibet's economic landscape? For India and Bangladesh, who are heavily dependent on this river, is this a manageable project or an irreversible fate? To answer these questions, we must delve into the currents of this great river and explore the intricate underlying logic of energy, economy, sovereignty, and international relations. The downstream anxiety, a river of life that decides a nation's fate. To understand India's sensitivity, one must first comprehend the significance of the Brahmaputra River to it. When the Yarlung Tsangpo crosses the eastern flank of the Himalayas and enters India's Arunachal Pradesh, which China calls the Zangnan area, it is given a new name, Brahmaputra, meaning son of Brahma. The river rampages through northeastern India, shaping the vast and fertile Assam plain, which is India's most important tea-producing region and agricultural base. For India, the value of this river is all-encompassing. Water lifeline. According to data from the World Resources Institute, India is the 13th most extremely water-stressed country in the world, with about 600 million people living in conditions of severe water scarcity. Although the Brahmaputra is voluminous, its flow is highly seasonal, making it the absolute water source for approximately 23 million residents and millions of hectares of farmland in northeastern India. The river contributes nearly 30% of India's total surface water resources. But during the non-monsoon season, any reduction in upstream water flow could have a disastrous impact on downstream agriculture and domestic water use. Ecological and cultural hub. The Kaziranga National Park on the Assam Plain, world famous for its unique Indian rhinoceros, has a wetland ecosystem that is entirely dependent on the Brahmaputra's annual flood cycle. The river holds a sacred status in Hinduism and is the carrier of countless cultural customs and religious rituals. The dual fear. India's concerns manifest as a contradictory dual fear. In the dry season, they worry that China will use the dam to store water, causing a sharp decrease in downstream flow, leading to agricultural failures and drinking water crises. In the rainy season, when the Brahmaputra is already prone to catastrophic flooding due to monsoon rains and glacial melt, they fear that China will release large volumes of water to free up reservoir capacity, thereby exacerbating downstream floods and worsening the tragic flooding that occurs annually in the state of Assam. This fear is not unfounded, but stems from a deeper, structural problem. China, India, and Bangladesh have yet to reach any legally binding multilateral agreement on the water resource allocation of the Yarlung-Tsangpo-Brahmaputra River. Although an expert-level mechanism exists between China and India for sharing hydrological data, its effectiveness has been repeatedly tested during times of geopolitical tension. In the absence of a transparent, credible sharing mechanism and dispute resolution framework, any major upstream water project is naturally viewed with a veil of mystery and threat by those downstream. Taming the Dragon, an engineering epic that challenges the limits. Facing the doubts from downstream, Chinese engineers are tackling one of the most severe engineering challenges on Earth. The site of the Medog hydropower station is located at the apex of the Yarlung-Tsangpo's Great Bend, a geological marvel. Here, the river flows around the 7,782-meter high Mount Namcha Barwa, forming a massive, U-shaped horseshoe. The straight-line distance is only a few dozen kilometers, but the river channel meanders for over 200 kilometers. More importantly, within a short distance of just 50 kilometers, the river's elevation drops by an astonishing 2,000 meters, holding unparalleled hydropower potential. Such immense potential energy is liquid gold in the eyes of engineers, but it is accompanied by hellish construction difficulties. This is the collision front of the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates, characterized by frequent geological activity, high seismic risk, and extremely steep, hard rock mountainsides. Traditional dam building methods are almost impossible here. For this reason, Chinese engineers have proposed a highly imaginative and bold plan, straightening the bend by diverting water through tunnels. The core logic is to stop the river from taking its 200-kilometer detour and instead excavate several massive underground tunnels through the narrowest neck of the U-shaped bend, about a few dozen kilometers. Through these tunnels, the upstream water will be directly guided to a much lower elevation downstream, maximizing the use of that 2,000-meter natural drop to drive turbine generators buried deep within the mountain. This is equivalent to building an artificial, subterranean artery inside the body of the Himalayas. This method has several key advantages. Maximized efficiency. It can capture the river's potential energy to the greatest extent, which is incomparable to traditional dams. Minimized ecological impact. Since the main engineering works are conducted inside the mountain, it can significantly reduce damage to surface vegetation, soil, and wildlife habitats. China's official statements have also repeatedly emphasized that this is a run-of-the-river type hydropower station, meaning most of the water will return to the downstream channel after generating power and will not cut off the water source. Safety. Placing the core power generation equipment deep within the mountain also provides better protection against geological disasters like earthquakes. However, excavating tunnels with diameters large enough to carry massive volumes of water at an average altitude of several thousand meters presents astronomical technical difficulties and costs. It requires the use of the world's most advanced tunnel boring machines, TBMs, and overcoming a series of world-class challenges, including extreme cold and oxygen deprivation, complex rock strata, and logistical support. This is not just a hydraulic engineering project. It is an ultimate test of a nation's comprehensive industrial capacity, technological level, and organizational ability. The Dragon Strategy, a century-long gamble driven by a triple imperative. Given that the project is so difficult, the investment so enormous, and it is bound to attract continuous diplomatic pressure from India, why is China still so determined to advance this project of the century? The answer lies hidden in three interconnected strategic layers. First driver, the crown jewel of the energy revolution and dual carbon plant. The Medog hydropower station's 300 billion kWh of annual electricity generation is pure clean energy. This figure is equivalent to replacing the burning of about 90 million tons of standard coal annually, thereby reducing carbon dioxide emissions by nearly 300 million tons. In the context of China's commitment to achieving a carbon peak before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060, the dual carbon goals, the strategic value of the Medog hydropower station is unparalleled. More importantly, it will become the ultimate energy pump for China's national west-to-east power transmission strategy. China's energy resources and demand are inversely distributed. The West is rich in hydropower, solar, and wind energy, while 80% of energy consumption is concentrated in the eastern coastal economic centers. The enormous electricity generated by the Medog station will be continuously transmitted through ultra-high voltage power grids to core economic zones like the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macao Greater Bay Area and the Yangtze River Delta, providing strong green power for China's future economic development. It is not just a local project, but a key piece in optimizing the national energy structure and ensuring energy security. Second driver, the stabilizing anchor for reshaping Tibet and the border economy. For the Tibet Autonomous Region, the significance of the Medog hydropower station is revolutionary. According to 2023 data, Tibet's GDP was approximately 239.3 billion RMB. After the project is completed, it is estimated to bring in over 20 billion RMB in annual fiscal revenue for Tibet. This means that a single project could contribute nearly 1/10 of Tibet's current GDP, which will completely transform Tibet's financial and economic landscape. Its impact extends far beyond this. Industrial clusters. The ultra-low on-grid electricity price of just 0.1 RMB/kWh will be a huge magnet for energy-intensive industries such as big data centers, cloud computing, and high-end manufacturing, potentially creating a brand new green industrial cluster on the Tibetan plateau. Employment and infrastructure. The project's construction period of 10-15 years will directly and indirectly create 50,000 to 100,000 jobs. The roads, bridges, and communication networks built to support the project will greatly improve transportation and living conditions in southern Tibet, especially in the border areas. Development and stability. By creating unprecedented economic opportunities and upgrading infrastructure, the project is seen as a core engine for promoting long-term peace, stability, and high-quality development in Tibet. It is a vital tool for the central government to achieve prosperity and stability in the frontier region. Third driver, the silent monument of geopolitical and sovereign assertion. This is perhaps the most watched and most sensitive layer. The Medog hydropower station is located right next to the disputed territory of Arunachal Pradesh, Zangnan area. In such a highly sensitive geographical location, investing trillions of yuan to build a permanent, immovable super project with an operational life of a century is, in itself, the strongest and most unequivocal declaration of sovereignty. It is like a giant thumbtack firmly fixing China's presence onto this land. With the influx of tens of thousands of engineering and technical personnel and vast amounts of materials, coupled with the improvement of supporting facilities, China's actual control and governance over this remote border region will be strengthened as never before. Regarding the accusation of weaponizing water resources, analysts generally believe its symbolic significance outweighs its practical feasibility. First, the design of a run-of-the-river hydropower station limits its ability to regulate water flow. Completely cutting off the water supply would be technically and economically unfeasible. Second, if China were to truly use the water valve as a weapon, it would not only completely destroy its relations with India and Bangladesh, but also face enormous moral and diplomatic pressure internationally, contradicting its image as a responsible major power. Therefore, the dam's significance as a potential deterrent or bargaining chip far outweighs its utility as an active offensive weapon. Its very existence changes the geopolitical balance. The future of the game, a source of conflict or a beginning of cooperation. Facing China's determination, India has not been sitting idle. In recent years, India has also been planning and constructing its own hydropower projects in the Brahmaputra basin and investing in canal systems to try to reduce its dependence on the upstream through internal water resource management. However, in terms of both scale and technical strength, these projects can hardly compete with China's Medog megadam. Meanwhile, this game revolving around the river has also attracted global attention. The United States sees India as a key pillar of its Indo-Pacific strategy and would naturally be pleased to see and possibly amplify the disagreements between China and India. The Yarlung Tsangpo issue is undoubtedly an ideal entry point for it to sow discord between the two countries. At this point, a complex picture emerges. The Medog hydropower station is, in Beijing's eyes, a miracle of green development, a cornerstone of energy security, and a stabilizer for the borderlands. Yet in New Delhi's mind, it is a geopolitical threat, a precursor to ecological disaster, and a sovereign provocation. And for the furthest downstream and lowest-lying nation, Bangladesh, its already fragile balance between floods and droughts is now faced with another huge uncertainty. Ultimately, where will this titan standing on the roof of the world lead Asia? It could become an unhealable scar between China and India, causing their already fragile trust to completely collapse and initiating a prolonged confrontation over water resources. But from another perspective, the immense risks and common challenges brought about by this unprecedented project could also become a catalyst that forces all parties to the negotiating table. When the power of a river is harnessed by humanity in an unprecedented way, the chain reactions it triggers will transcend national borders. Perhaps only by establishing a multilateral water resource management framework based on transparent data, shared interests, and the rule of law can a path to a peaceful and sustainable future be found for this great river that has nurtured ancient civilizations. Otherwise, this heaven-sent river could become a raging torrent that ignites 21st century geopolitical conflict. The answer is being slowly poured into the body of the Himalayas, with the first cubic meter of the dam's concrete.